Hello and welcome to First Lady with Meghna Pant, an exclusive show on First Post where we bring you India's foremost leaders, thinkers and activists. His books are supposed to be symptomatic of aspirational India. No wonder the New York Times has called him the largest selling Indian novelist in India's history. Despite this, he's drawn a lot of literary flack for having spawned the rise of the non-novel. I'm talking about Chetan Bhagat, who's known in equal parts as a populist and a popular youth icon. Chetan, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Chetan, you've had a run that no other Indian author has been able to achieve. Authors like me hope to sell books even in the thousands. You've sold 7 million copies and counting. What is it that you're doing differently?
What is it I'm doing differently? I don't know. I think some of us are just luckier. I mean, it's just life is like that, and we live in times where today the distribution is disproportionate. In some ways, like the top guy will take a lot more than the second guy, who will maybe not that much difference. There may not be that much difference. I think I was one of the early ones. I think that has always helped me because I was one of the early ones on the Indian popular fiction scene. There weren't any popular fiction books that had become mass when I started writing. It was all literary writers, and then I think and I think somewhere I have kept at it. I love it, so I left my job and put all my effort behind. I don't take it for granted. So every time I do a book, I don't do sequels or series or just I don't write very fast. I take 2-3 years to write a book.
Okay.
So that's to give people a quality which may look the book may make the book look deceptively simple. But beyond that, I think it's some of times I go to a bookstore and see 40,000 titles and I see why is mine selling. I think it's one of those freak of nature things. Why does Salman Khan become the biggest star? I mean, it's really an X factor you cannot explain.
And how do you react then to criticism from a section of society or even from the literary world that you're a populist, or the kind of flag that you've drawn for appearing, say, as a judge on Nach Bale? Do you embrace it? Do you say this is who I am, or do you justify it?
I do now, but that wasn't the case 5-7 years ago. I would be far more sensitive, defensive. I'd be like, no, but I've sold so many books, or no, but like everybody loves my books. But now maybe it's age, or maybe it's been so long, and maybe it's just I'm writing from a place where it's not just that the external validation. I'm also writing for myself. I'm proud of this book. So if I'm proud of it, then it doesn't matter so much, what people say. I don't even let praise affect me too much. Profuse praise, profuse criticism, I don't let it affect me. I think people from a literary background may find the books too populist, but that's what they're meant to be. I want to reach people. I want to reach India. That's who I am. That's the reason I write.
So you've not become an author to get fame or to to stoke your ego, all of that. You feel like you're an author also who's very sort of you're writing for literature, for the art.
I'm writing for change. I don't even think I remember asking a couple of actors that how do you feel when people come to you for selfies and all? And they said they love it. They love that adulation of that. I personally feel a little uncomfortable. If you truly ask me, when people, I feel a little uncomfortable. Although when people read my books and read my articles, or they talk about it in good ways, I like that. So I'm clearly here to promote my work. My face and my personality is not, I wish I didn't have to do that, but I think it comes all mixed up with it. So that's not, and I'm not doing it for a Booker Prize or anything, so maybe it's not so much. The art is to reach people, how to reach millions. So the art is a little different from a typical literary art. The art form is how do you communicate to millions of people with just paper and ink.
And you have your pulse on what India wants to read, especially aspirational India. And you've got the third generation of English-speaking Indians now who want to be seen carrying an English language book. So do you know what India is looking to read? Do you have a pulse on what to expect as a trend, as a publishing trend?
See, actually people like to read a variety of things. Like we've had mythological stories done, who have contemporaries doing very well. Sometimes Harry Potter does well. I mean, so there is no fixed rule. But the thing for me is I write stories out of real life, everyday life, and topics that are relevant to a lot of Indians.
Yeah.
But yet they are not spoken about as much in public, not as much as they should. So whether it was the education system in Three Idiots is something every Indian has a view on. They suffer, they feel it's not very good, but it's not breaking news.
Yeah.
So it'll never come up in discussions,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of important things are not urgent. A lot of important things are not breaking news, but they're very important. Whether it's intercommunity marriages, like two states marriages that are growing in numbers in India because of migration and job migration.
Yeah.
So that I wrote a book on that. So now this issue of women and feminism is also, it's not one issue. It's like 20 issues.
Many layers.
It's like female feticide can be a
Exactly.
issue, and you know, like the movie Pink, the consent is an issue.
Yeah.
Here it's more about a woman who wants a career and a home.
Yeah.
And people are like, why? Just choose. And she's like, no, but I want both. And I think that's more about career and work-life balance. So these are things I felt that this particular topic would apply to a lot of women.
Okay.
Young women are told that you can do anything in life when they are little. Nowadays, many parents are saying, beta, you are like a man, just do whatever you want. And they do. The society does provide the opportunity.
Yeah.
You can get into a top college like this girl. You can get into a top job like this girl. But while we do have the institutions to make them successful, we don't know what to do with successful women. We don't know what to do with empowered women. We don't know. We'll still say कि पता नहीं पर बहू कैसी बनेगी.
So we as a nation, as
We
society,
as
as
the
men,
society
or-
structure has not evolved to handle empowered women. While we talk about empowered women, we don't want to discuss whether we are ready to marry empowered women. Do we think how will they balance work? How will they do their work and be a good mother? We don't want to discuss that. It's just like ये बड़ी hi-fi है, ये बड़ी feminist type है, इसके साथ नहीं, हमें कुछ simple लड़की दो, you know. So that kind of mentality, or like homely, you know, I don't know what homely means, but every matrimonial they say we want a homely girl.
Yeah.
But that's a.
But do you think that's still pervasive in Indian society?
Yeah, of course, pan India. I mean, we live in Bandra, and Mumbai is not the India, right?
Yeah.
And even in Mumbai, you'd be surprised what attitudes exist, because in Mumbai is no one class. Maybe in a very high society, it's not an issue.
Yeah.
But even there, at some point, it becomes an issue. This girl is making a lot of money. She's dating the most evolved men, working on Madison Avenue. But the day she starts making 3 times as much as her boyfriend, the boyfriend is uncomfortable.
But that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So I saw the trailer of, your new book, One Indian Girl, and you said that, the girl, she makes money, she has an opinion, she's not a virgin, and therefore people will not like her. And I found that a very, almost regressive take, because why are these bad attributes for a woman to have?
No, that's a sarcasm actually. I mean, clearly that's being sarcastic in the promo, but those attitudes do exist. Those attitudes do exist. Every action the girl does in this book is against what you have, what is expected of a Adarsh Bharatiya Nari. She lives in with a guy, she has an affair with a married man, she drinks, she wants she's very ambitious.
Okay.
So typically when an author in India is creating that character, she's not a very likable character. That was one of my first issues. How do I make this likable?
Yeah.
Because people like demure pretty girls who are to be wooed, and that's likable, who is just so heartbroken and waiting for a lover. But to have a woman with agency and to make her likable as a heroine, it's difficult. And that's what makes this character so interesting, and that's what makes this book different from my other books. And that's what made the promo, that here is a girl who in a conventional way does not have likable traits, only because she's a girl. If it's a guy who's very ambitious and wants to conquer the world and has had women and all that, makes money, that will be really cool.
But like your own wife, she's an equal to you in most ways.
More than equal.
More than equal. So how did somebody like that react to you?
No, but that's what I've been surrounded by highly achieving women, including my wife. A lot of my friends are women from IIM Ahmedabad. A lot of my colleagues in banks had like some really accomplished women. But they couldn't get a guy, like a lot of investment banking girls, because they were making like 300,000-400,000 a year. They were making 2 crores a year. Where do you get a guy for her? Because the richer guys want a pretty girl on their side who's simple, not hi-fi, not opinionated, not somebody who can quote the stock markets, And then these girls are like, you're laughing because you know it's true.
No, I'm laughing because I exist in a very different world where, as a woman, I was taught to be all these things that you're saying.
But we do tell them and we do want them, but at the same time, they are made to, there's a penalty for it. Kangana at the launch said, my success has gone against me when it comes to love. The moment like my boyfriends, they start out and eventually they can't handle it, the kind of spending I do, the kind of, she's like, I'm okay with it. He doesn't make as much money. He doesn't have to pay. I'll pay for my thing. But they feel insecure. She was talking of an instance, she was with a doctor boyfriend and they went and like she took him to a very expensive restaurant in London and she paid the bill. And the whole night he said, did you see how the waiter looked at me? Did you see how that customer looked at me? Why did you have to pay? You should have let me. So she is like, why? Because she's successful and she's a woman. So these issues do exist. For a movie star also they are existing. So what hope is there of small town India,
Yeah. But you mentioned yourself that, women in India have had to face so many very, very serious issues, from rape to sexual harassment to dowry death to female infanticide. But in your video trailer, one of them, you said that waxing was one of the issues that you brought up.
No, I didn't say waxing was an issue.
But do you think that has anything to do with feminism?
No. I didn't say waxing was an issue. I said actually a series of videos about one Indian girl, which we record in my office only. And it was just sharing what all the research preps went into the book. So I interviewed a lot of women, went into the core, in-depth discussion about their core needs, core this, everything. And then I had a waxing scene in the book. So I thought I'll get waxing done. So it was just a joke. But it's not like waxing is an issue or anything. But I did get it done. And then, so it was just highlighting how it was different to write this book. But clearly that's not the biggest issue. And clearly it's nowhere comparable to the crimes against women you mentioned. In fact, even the book I have written about women and career, this for a very high achieving women. This may not be the most gruesome feminism issue, but it affects a lot of women. So crimes against women are horrible, but it affects say 1-2% of women. But women in the workplace who also want to be a good family person, that affects 80-90% of women who have to make a choice, which often is a ridiculous choice because they don't want to make that choice, but then we say, अरे नहीं अब चुन लीजिए, अब घर बैठो ना, फिर career क्यों करना है? So like that.
So would you call yourself a feminist?
That's for people to decide, but I don't believe in labels. But I think the book also mentions one guy, it's just humanist, it doesn't need a separate name. It's just human to human. If you are treating any human being as another human being, then it's not like gender or religion or anything. You don't have to specifically say I'm a feminist and a secularist and not a casteist. This, that, you just be a good human being and don't judge people on identity like this.
Okay, great. So this is now time for my pop quiz.
Pop quiz?
So I'll dive right into it.
Yeah.
Okay. जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. Is content king or does marketing hold more value?
Content is still king, but marketing is queen.
Can book ratings and bestseller lists be bought?
I don't know. I have never bought it. But I hope not.
So would you want to be known as Chetan the marketing guru or Chetan the author?
No, just the author. Good marketing is when people don't discover that it's marketing. So,
That's true. Would you call yourself a good writer?
I think it's very self or whatever narcissistic to say that. But I'm not bad.
And would you call yourself an intellectual?
No. Anybody who calls themselves an intellectual is actually not an intellectual because it's not very intelligent to say that because you sound really stupid when you say that.
You've often said that you felt like a pariah in the literary world. Do you still feel that way?
I'm sure I have my own world now, so I don't need that world so much. And not so much. I think it's slowly coming together. I think they're slowly getting it, what I'm trying to do.
And do you think publishing is going to be an industry that'll be around in another 10-20 years? Because there's so many obstacles now on the way.
It's difficult. I think it's difficult. Print, you mean, right?
Print, yeah.
Yeah, it's becoming difficult, but I think you will go through a cycle and people will realize that all this excitement about apps and selfies and all this craziness is not nourishing for the mind. And there's nothing like books.
And will people continue reading?
Yeah, I think so. But maybe they're just too excited about their smartphone right now.
Yeah.
But I think one day people are going to get bored and say, okay, you know, I don't really need to check my status update 10 times a day.
Yeah.
So then maybe give me a good book to read. So.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. Do you think commercial fiction has beckoned the end of the classic Indian novel?
In some ways, yeah. I mean, in the sense that the only books that used to be talked about earlier were literary novels.
Yeah.
Now I don't see them
Literary
being talked
novels,
about.
Yeah. Now your two twin boys, Sham and Ishana, they also planning to become writers?
No, they're just 12. No, I don't think so. They've shown no such desire.
Yeah. And do you think you're having the last laugh in the literary world?
No, let's not get into like this India-Pakistan, like I did surgical strike versus no, I did it. Yeah. I think we are understanding each other, and I have understood what literature and literary world stands for. There is no such thing as literary and popular. There are books, and there are good stories and bad stories, and good books and bad books. We do classification in our heads, but there is no such thing really.
Yeah. Okay, Chetan, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you.